Another night and another NBA player with a pop after their injury, this time with Lamelo Ball suffering a fracture in his right ankle on this play. Welcome back everybody, I'm Dr. Brian Sutterer, and if you're new here, my goal on the channel is to teach you about different sports medicine topics and sports injuries to make it fun and more relevant. This was the play where it happened, and I'll admit this is a really weird one. I certainly did not expect to hear about a fracture as a result of a play where it doesn't even look like Lamelo's ankle twists or turns, and was certainly something non-contact. In fact, really what I was more concerned of when I first saw this was some sort of maybe a soleus muscle injury, just given how he kind of landed on his foot dorsiflex, some more tension on the soleus muscle. But of course, let's talk through kind of possibilities with an ankle fracture. The biggest thing I notice as Lamelo plants is just how much kind of dorsiflexion the ankle is in. Really, he's loading the front part of the ankle, kind of these anterior structures, because the tibia is coming down so much on top of the front of the ankle, is going to put more tension, more just compressive force on specifically that tibiotalar joint. But again, really no twists, there's no eversion, there's no inversion, so really looked pretty darn benign. Maybe a little bit of a clue here, we can see Lamelo is kind of grabbing the front of his ankle as he gets up to run back down the court. Same kind of thing right here, we see him grabbing kind of more the front part, kind of inner outer of that ankle. What I suspect we're dealing with is a type of fracture called an avulsion fracture, basically one where a tendon or a ligament rips a piece of bone off with it. When we look at the structure here of our foot and ankle, of course we have our traditional major kind of lateral inversion ankle sprain ligaments. We have 3 of them coming off of the distal part of the fibula, running out to the talus and the calcaneus. Certainly people can get avulsion fractures of their distal fibula, but that's again usually when somebody has some sort of an inversion mechanism, right? Where the foot kind of rolls in this direction, you tear on those ligaments, and instead of the ligaments tearing, you pull off a piece of the bone. On the inside portion of the ankle, of course, we have our deltoid ligaments. There's some different kind of retinacula that run over some of these different tendons, but then these ligaments are again running on the inside of the ankle, and same sort of thing. Usually there's some significant amount of eversion now the other direction, where you're going to get tension on these medial deltoid ligaments and cause a piece of bone to break off. But we forget about a lot of these other small ligaments, particularly through the top of the foot. And I've seen plenty of cases of people who have ankle injuries where all they really have is technically an ankle fracture, but there's just a small little tiny fleck of bone, these small little dorsal avulsion injuries off the top of the foot from any number of these small little ligaments that basically just tear off and pull a small little fleck of bone off with it. Again, if we're talking about kind of those anterior structures, yes, people can get more kind of compressive fractures, compressive injuries when the tibia sort of compresses down on the talus, but usually we're talking about more high energy, high impact types of things. The only thing that maybe stands out from a different angle here was actually the step beforehand, where you can see as Lamelo is stepping out to his right, look at how his foot initially lands, right? He kind of lands on the inside of his right foot and has ever so slight a little bit of eversion with the medial part of the ankle coming in. So he doesn't land completely on a flat foot. He kind of lands on the inside of his foot, which is going to put a little bit of tension and stress on those medial structures, those medial ankle ligaments, the deltoid ligament complex, which could certainly lead to a little avulsion fracture. That's really the only thing that I'm slightly seeing here. And the more I look at it, the more I wonder if it really was this step before and there was an injury that occurred on this step, and then it was really as the play kind of continued through. And the reason why Lamelo stepped so awkwardly the second time is because now as soon as he goes to plant right here, he feels the pain. You can see his heel lift up off the ground right away. So maybe the fracture had already happened on the step before. If that is the case, that it was the step before, I would be certainly worried about an avulsion fracture of this medial malleolus, this inner bone of the ankle. And these can be much more prolonged injuries and sometimes require a surgery. So if the injury was on the step before the plant, then I think it would fit with more of an avulsion type fracture at this medial malleolus. If it wasn't, then we're thinking more of these kind of small little fleck types of avulsions. Either way, with fractures, the treatment depends on number 1, how displaced, and number 2, does it involve the stability of a joint? If it's significantly displaced, if it involves the stability of a joint, you're looking more at a surgery, versus if it's not displaced, doesn't involve stability of a joint, more conservative non-operative treatment. It's definitely an unusual one, but hopefully this was a little bit helpful. To take a look, maybe look at the step before that you might not have seen as a possibility of when that little avulsion could have occurred. Let me know as always any questions or comments down below, and until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.